Hey, you want to watch some TV or something?
Skip it. Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Nothing but foul language and toilet humor.
I'm disgusted and repulsed and I can't look away.
I need these things! I need these things! Tell me, do you want to go? We're stopping in on the color line. Oh, no way, Jose.
This just in, go to hell!
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
So, you ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
Ready to usher in the new era of Watch Skip Plus?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Hello, friends and listeners. Welcome to Watch Skip Plus. We are a movie review podcast with a lifestyle twist. I am Cupcake, also known as Jose. I think I'm going to start calling myself Constant Cupcake. And the reason why is, and you heard this voice, and I'm going to introduce him now. We'll get to him a little bit later. But that voice you heard was not Alex, Emcee, Barbie Barbarian, Sloppy Joes with a Z. That is actually the Willden-Beast himself, Mike. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing good. Doing great.
Excellent. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Yes. So if this is the first time you are joining Watch Skip Plus, we are a movie review podcast with a lifestyle twist. So wherever you're listening to us, please hit follow, like, subscribe, whatever it does. Leave a review if you love us or if you've checked out our back catalog. And we are on YouTube now, so you get to see our pretty faces on video. And if you're on YouTube as well, please follow, like, subscribe. And I think there's like a little bell. And so every time we upload something, you get a notification. And definitely leave comments because we want to foster a community. And so speaking of community, I must apologize to our loyal listeners. Mike, you are a loyal listener, and our fans as well. In fact, I'm pretty sure, Mike, that you are one of these 6 people who at 6 a.m. when an episode gets uploaded, you have already listened to them by like 6:30 a.m. I'm like, who are these 6 people? Like, anyway, but I would be remiss if I didn't say I had put something on our Watch Skip Plus page that said we were going to announce some big news, and then it never came, right? So the big news, unfortunately, folks, is that I have found myself without a co-host again. Is it me? Is it me? Is he just not into me? No, I'm kidding. So obviously, Red was the original, Justin was the original co-host, left the show. Then we had Emcee for pretty much all of 2024. And unfortunately, he did step away as well. I kind of was like Heather number 3 in Heathers, Shannon Doherty, who ran to every media and was like, it was fun. We would try on each other's clothes. Anyway, I was on 3 other podcasts and I had talked about the fact that like Alex had walked away, but I never made the full announcement to you listeners. So I'm so sorry for that. But Willden-Beast, Mike, is now our co-host, hopefully for 2025, hopefully for beyond. I don't know. It's starting to feel like maybe every year I switch up a co-host. I don't know. I have no idea. But anyway, Mike, do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners? And before that, you guys might be familiar with him because he has been on our annual Sundance episodes, which I'm really happy for because I don't think I'm not sure many other podcasts do it, but I love it. And I love hearing about the new movies coming up. You talked about a bunch of films that came out. And your take on them was like spot on. It was wonderful. You've also guested on the Oscar prediction episode, which I love. Who knows if the Oscars are going to happen this year? I don't know. You want to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah. Thanks so much. Again, my name's Mike. I go by the Willden-Beast. It's been a nickname I've had forever. Yeah, it's just who I am. I am the Willden-Beast. I'm one of those guys that's been a part of the film group that we met through the Gentleman's Guide. I started that probably in 2011. Wow. 2011 or 12, around that time is when I joined. And so I don't remember when you and I became friends, but I quickly learned to enjoy your banter online. I thought you were a lot of fun, and you were one of those people who I really just enjoyed, interacting with. And so once you started the podcast, it became one of my favorites quickly with you and Red. And of course, I knew Justin before because of our group. We did these wonderful Christmas gift giving. They called the Kringles, and I actually had him on a Kringle, and we became really good friends because of that. So it's just become like I'm just part of this community. And as soon as you said, "Hey, Mike, do you want to do this?" And I was like, yeah, yeah, and I was working with John for one point last year, helping him on his YouTube show. We did a few episodes together. And then I had some stuff going on with work, and it just ended up being a lot, and I stepped back away from that. But then as soon as you gave me the call, and of course I still guest on John's stuff. I think I'm doing some animated stuff for him in February. So I'm
Nice.
still going to guest with him, and I just really want to be a part of this because this was my favorite. And I have a Regal pass. I love going to the film, to new movies. So when you said let's do this, I was like, okay, of course. I'd love to talk about new film. I'd love to talk about movies, period, and just spending time with you and your beautiful glistening face, gorgeous
Ah,
makeup.
ah,
I know I gotta up my game. I know just starting, I gotta get a new mic system, new camera, but one
yeah.
step at a time. I'm really excited to be here. Like I said, I've been in love with film since I was young. My mother, rest in peace, she got me in love with film, similar to you at a young age. I remember getting Entertainment Weekly magazines like all the time. I remember us like reading through the magazines. I remember my mom just loving film and just really just being into it, watching the Oscars every year as a child. I remember watching, like, the one that stands up the most is the year that Dirty Dancing was nominated for Best Song, and there was one of the most beautiful performances I ever saw of. I had the time of my life. So it's like one of those memories that has like helped me foster throughout my adulthood, like this love of
Nice.
film. But also through film and through my love of film, I've learned to love people and to be open-minded and to learn about other countries. And it's one thing I think that Americans especially need to watch film, not just big blockbusters, but film from all over the world to open their minds. Because I was a small hodunk boy, partly from North Carolina, partly from Utah, so film really helped open my mind and to what's out there in the world. So to me, film is really important. It's a way for people to share their stories. It's a way for people to share who they are, and for us as film lovers to learn and to grow. It's not just about turning your brain off and enjoying yourself. As I prepare for Sundance, that's coming up soon, it's about becoming engrossed in people's stories. And the film we're talking about today, while it might be a big Hollywood blockbuster, also has a really interesting story that and some themes that I'm excited for us to kind of tackle.
Yeah, definitely. Is that a Utah Jazz banner back there?
Yeah, a little. Yep, I'm a Utah Jazz guy.
Yes. Just really quickly, a couple icebreakers off the top of your head, because I love to do this to my co-hosts. Can you think of like maybe 3 films that speak not only to maybe your favorite genre, but maybe say something about who you are? So, for example, for me, some of my favorite films are like Elektra, Morbius, Barbed Wire, Madam Web. How about you? What are 3 off the top of your head that say something about you and what you like in movies?
Let's go Evil Dead.
Ooh,
Let's go. I'd say Evil Dead 2 actually, and then let's go Lost in Translation, and then probably my third one I would throw in there. I'd probably go something like Jurassic Park. It was just such a big
awesome.
part of my life. I love monster movies. I mean, I'll never forget seeing Jurassic Park I think I just turned 14 at the time, and it blew my mind as
Oh
somebody
my
who
God.
loved dinosaurs. And in Utah, we have like the dinosaur museum, so it was always a huge part of me. So as soon as Jurassic Park came out, I saw it on my birthday. I saw it like 3 times because I'm a June birthday, so I always get the blockbusters. So it was just one of those amazing experiences. Oh, if I was to throw a fourth, probably Batman '89 because it was like the movie I saw when I turned 10. So I
With
mean,
Jack Nicholson, Tim Burton.
yeah,
Oh
yep,
God,
that's
it's
the
so
one.
great.
That was a
Production
huge movie
design by
for me.
Anton Furst, so good. Wait, you're a June baby.
Yeah,
What day? What month?
and June 23rd. I'm a Cancer, right at the
But
cusp.
but you're on the cusp, so I'm a
I
Gemini.
got I got a little
So
Gemini in me sometimes.
yeah, 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 most definitely. Okay, so the other big news too is that I'm gonna basically try because Mike and I we don't have any problems talking. So we're going to try to strip down Watch the Plus. There might be some format changes. One of the big format changes is we are now putting our pluses. So the plus is a bonus lifestyle review. We're putting them at the end because when we think of a bonus, we think after the main show. And so, you mentioned monster movies. Here we go. What are we reviewing this week?
We are reviewing Leigh Whanell's Wolfman.
Yes. And so it's interesting. It's Wolf Space Man, not the Wolfman, not, Wolfman together. So this is a reboot of the Universal monster. We know how Universal loves their monsters. 1941, The Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr. Strangely, the rest of that cast included other actors that would become Universal monsters, right? Bela Lugosi was in there, Claude Rains. And then fun fact, Universal had released a werewolf film in 1935 called Werewolf of London, and it was less successful. So this was sort of their bid to redo it. And then we should probably mention the Dark Universe. So again, Universal loves rebooting the monsters. If you think about it, Schrader's Cat People is kind of like an undercover, like Universal monster kind of thing. And in 2014, they were cooking up a shared universe. 2017 showed the premiere of The Mummy with Tom Cruise. It was a failure and it killed the Dark Universe. However, I'm hoping it comes back because Leigh Whanell, his third film that he directed was 2020's The Invisible Man, which was Universal's sort of stepping back from the shared universe and saying, let's give filmmakers their vision. And it was such a success, $145 million on a $7 million budget, that they essentially gave him this project, right? So our director, Leigh Whanell, Mike, what do you think of when you think of Leigh Whanell?
I think of Saw. I actually met the man and shook him and James Wan's hand at Sundance 2004 when, because it was a movie that blew my mind. I saw it at the premiere. They were at the Little Tower Theater along with Carrie and Danny. So it was a cool experience for me to see Saw at one of its premieres. And then, Leigh was just this, and James were just these little tiny dudes in their 20s. It was really awesome. Back then I was a young guy in my 20s too, so I loved to go and shake everyone's hands after they did their Q&A. So I was lucky to have the experience to actually meet them and then follow their career. And both of them have been, they're both people I followed since with their writing, and I've seen everything that he's premiered at Sundance, his writing stuff, from the Saw movies to Cooties, which is another really fun one that he wrote that he was in.
He co-wrote that. That was 2014. And then they also created the Insidious franchise together. We should mention that Leigh is also an actor. If you blink, you'll miss him in Matrix Reloaded, but he was also in Cooties as well. Very good looking guy. Obviously he was in Saw. Hello. His first movie I think that he directed was Insidious 3. Yeah.
Insidious 3 is the first one he directed. Yep.
Right. And then the fantastic Upgrade was his second film. I don't think that gets talked about enough because it's quite an interesting film that starts with like a little tech premise and then opens up. And speaking of opening up, he is planning a series sequel to Upgrade. Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm unabashed. That's my favorite film of his. I love Upgrade so much. It is a perfect genre blend of everything I love of action, sci-fi, and even hints of horror. It's so cool. And it's so well made.
Yeah, it's technically well done. It's shot well. Logan Marshall Green, aka Tom Hardy Jr. He's really great in it. We should probably mention before we move on to more of the below the line and the actors, he is working on a reboot of Escape from New York. Did you know this?
No.
Yeah. In addition to that series sequel. So let's hope it happens. But the writers are Leigh. He wrote this with Corbett Tuck, who I had no idea who this person was. Corbett Tuck is actually an actress from Texas, and that is Leigh Whannell's wife. And so I already hate her because Leigh is gorgeous and I love him. Anyway, our DP is Stefan Duccio. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, although Duccio does not sound good. Duscio. He is an up-and-comer. He has actually worked with Leigh Whanell on all of his films. He shot music videos for like Beyonce and Troye Sivan. If you've ever seen Sweetheart, and then this really great Eric Bana movie, The Dry, he shot that as well. So very talented. And then our music is by Benjamin Wallfish, who is on a killing streak in terms of like composing stuff. I mean, everything from genre like Lights Out to Annabelle to The Invisible Man, It Chapter 2, and recently Twisters, Alien Romulus, Craven the Hunter, and now Wolfman. So he's on fire. I should also mention that our special effects are by Arjen Tuatin. He's actually from Joré, Friesland, Netherlands. People will know him from his work essentially with Angelina Jolie. So Marie, Maleficent, anytime there's special effects with her face or prosthetics, he's done it. The Ghostbusters movies, Babylon, The Killers. He used to work with Legacy Effects, which is Shane Mahan and I believe Tom Ellis's. They were in Stan Winston Studios, and then they created their own effects wing. And so he's definitely an up-and-comer. He also worked at Stan Winston Studios as well. And then our cast. Mike, do you want to just run down the cast really quickly?
Yeah, sure. We've got Christopher Abbott, who's our lead. He plays Blake Lovell. We've got Julia Garner. She plays Charlotte Lovell, Blake's wife. We've got Matilda Firth as Ginger Lovell, Blake and Charlotte's daughter. And then we have Sam Yeager, who's playing Grady Lovell, Blake's estranged father. So, I mean, that's really the basis of the cast, those four main leads. For me, Julia Garner is someone who I really love. I've been following her career for many years, back when she was on TV, starting, I think the first thing I saw her in, of course, Marcy May Marlene, I think is probably the first film I remember seeing her in. That was a Sundance hit. She was in Perks of Being a Wallflower. I remember her in Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. Gosh, she was in this wonderful Sundance film called Grandma with Lily Tomlin, The Assistant. And I haven't seen The Royal Hotel, which I hear is really great. That was in 2023. But I think most of us know her from either TV, either Inventing Anna, The Americans, or of course for me it was Ozark. She is
so good in Ozark.
She's the beating heart of that show. Love her or hate her, she really brings that to life. So yeah, Julia Garner, she's somebody who I think doesn't get enough love. I think she's an excellent actress, and at age 30, she's really got a good hold on what she is as an actress.
Actually, I checked out that prequel to Rosemary's Baby she was in. That was actually pretty good. And fun fact, she was cast to play Madonna in a biopic. Yes.
Perfect.
And Madonna was screenwriting it. And I think this was around the time that she was making the Royal Hotel. And Madonna was like, I think I'm going to go on a world tour. So obviously it was, delayed, but she looks every inch Madonna in this film. The blonde hair, the red lipstick. Like I was just like, oh, was this during her Madonna biopic stuff?
Wow.
Christopher Abbott, love
him.
That guy. I think a lot of people probably know him. I think he was in the first season of Girls.
He was.
But recently, Hulu's Catch-22, he was excellent in that. The Sinner on USA, I think he was in the second season. And then, of course, his genre breakout, Possessor, directed by Brandon Cronenberg. But Abbott, I adore him. I think, I would kick 20 Ryan Goslings in the face to he's great, and he's a great actor. And Sam Yeager, he surprised the crap out of me because I love him. He was on Parenthood, the TV show.
Yep, he was.
And what else was he? He was in this really dumb movie that I adore called Catch and Release with Jennifer Garner. And Kevin Smith is in it. Yeah. Timothy Oliphant. He's in there too. But it was nice to see him back on the screen. Yeah.
He was in Heart's War, I remember as well. The movie with Colin Farrell and Bruce Willis. I'm trying to think of what else I've seen him in. Gosh, he was in. He was in Handmaid's Tale as well. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. So working actor, pretty cool.
Yeah, working actor, and he's really good. But going back to Christopher Abbott, I mean, for me, his 10 years ago was the first time I really recognized him. He was in a little film at Sundance called James White. I think he was actually nominated for Best Actor in the Independent Spirit Award that year. So
I need to see that. And
if you haven't, you need to. It's beautiful.
He's been in a bunch of Duplass movies too, right? Like they love him. Yeah,
he's a Sundance regular. I've seen him at many Q&As throughout the past at Sundances. So as soon as I saw his face, I was like, who's Chris? And then when I saw him, I was like, oh, I've seen him in person.
That guy.
That guy. Okay.
We should also probably mention this is produced by Blumhouse. They have been on a poo-poo streak, so let's hope that this kind of turns them around a little bit. I mean, Night Swim, folks, Night Swim. Okay.
Well, let's talk about the history of how you're familiar with the history of this film. Like originally, this was supposed to be a film with Ryan Gosling and
Correct.
Derek
And
D. in France, who was
yes,
a great director. Who, again, I mean, there's so much Sundance involved in this film, so it's like a perfect way to like start our new version of Watch Skip Plus or season 3 or whatever you want to call it, because this is really a film that's indebted to the independent spirit of film, even though it's a bigger budget. It really
definitely
is linked to that Sundance world. And yeah, going back to Derek D in France and Gosling, that would have been an interesting thing if they would have actually pulled it off. But they pulled back, and in came Whannell, and he casted these two, like, again, for the most part, only really familiar on TV or independent films actors that I think we'll talk more about what they do. But I was pretty impressed with
Yeah.
what we got here.
Yeah, it's good to not have like a big. I mean, we should also mention Ryan Gosling retains EP credit on this.
Yep.
And then he and Derek had made, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Blue Valentine and then A Place Beyond the Hills?
That's it. Those are
Okay.
the two big ones they made.
Yeah, and so Derek's a very like emotional director and writer. It would have been interesting to see his take on this, absolutely. But I think he departed the project first, which is anyway. Yeah, let's do it. Spoiler free. I'm going to start with you. What did you think of Wolfman?
Okay, so Wolfman is in Scream, they would have called elevated horror.
Yeah.
There's little bits of Babadook in here. There's little bits of The Fly. There's a lot of body horror. But for me, The Wolfman is a film about trauma. It's a film about the circles of trauma, and it's about a man. We see him as a young boy who goes out camping with his, you could tell, very stern, strict father, who, while they're out hunting deer, see something strange out there. And this is probably, I'm guessing they're saying this was in the 90s-ish. We get a quick intro telling us that in 95, there was somebody who was, they believe, attacked by a wolf and has an illness, like some kind of sickness, sort of like a rabies, that has turned him into a wolf face type of a creature, some sort of illness, kind of like how they do in 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later about the zombie
rage virus. Yeah.
The rage virus. So very much this is a virus thing. This is very, again, this feels really grounded in reality. It feels really grounded in humanity, and it's really just like the original Wolfman, the Wolfman. It really is about the drama of a man going through an awful, awful thing, and again linking that to parental trauma makes for a really interesting film. So for me, spoiler free, I enjoyed it, but there are some flaws that we have to discuss a little bit. But overall, spoiler free right off the bat, I'm going to say that I enjoyed the film. There's some really interesting concepts, some really interesting themes. We have some pacing issues. We have some interesting choices with lighting that towards the last half of the film, I felt like I was watching AVP Requiem. It got really dark at times, but overall, I like this. It's not perfect, and it's not Whannell's best film, but I did like it. What about you?
Well, not that they're the same type of film, but yeah, I felt a little disappointed, given how sort of spectacular Invisible Man was, right? How that was like really, really great. I really hated the fact that the trailers gave away that this was kind of a isolated situation sort of thing. I really wish they hadn't done that. But technically, the movie is done really, really well. It is interesting that they retained that theme of father and son, and then son with love interest from the original The Wolfman. So the original stuff is there, but it's definitely done in a different direction. Almost to the point where I'm watching the prologue and I'm like, did I step into the wrong theater? Right? You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, military dad and all of this stuff. But you're correct. It's setting up that sort of trauma thing. And I will say that after Smile, after barbarian, after a lot of these recent horror films where trauma is just, that is the big, I feel like trauma's just been hammered in horror, and I want to step away from that. I mean, it's good, but it's, I don't know, you're going to lose viewers that way, I think, because trauma is something really real, and if you make it too real as a movie experience, I think you kill the experience in some ways if you're an emotional viewer like I am, right?
Mhm.
But I think the movie is also flawed as well. There are definitely some pacing concerns. I think if the film lopped off like 20 minutes, made it more of a streamlined 90-minute, like, let's go, because some of the writing in the beginning is too sparse for then what they want the audience to accept as the movie goes along. So I did like some of the twists that they put into this, which we'll definitely get into in the spoiler section. It is interesting if you look at the font of the title and then that opening commentary that links the Wolfman virus almost to like Native American, to something that's like deeper in the woods, right? Connected to nature, because we get all these beautiful shots of nature. By the way, the beautiful shots of nature are New Zealand and Ireland, which is super interesting to me because Scooter was like, oh, look at those mountains. It's got to be like Utah or like maybe near Seattle. And I'm like, New Zealand. Anyway. But you know, Abbott is really, really good in this. The special effects are really good in this. I'm sure you've seen those commercials. There are moments in this that caused me to turn away.
Yep.
And then the problem with turning away is the sound design in this movie. If anybody saw The Substance, think about The Substance in the Dennis Quaid chicken eating scene. That's this through the entire fucking movie, and it's very like it gets you there. And so there's definitely a craftsmanship to all of this. I will say, and we'll talk about this in the spoiler section, Julia Garner's character, because I mentioned that the writing in the beginning is very sparse to get us to the Wolfman, she comes off too cold for us to then accept her character's arc later in the film. And they continue to make her this like cold fish versus the wolf. Yeah. And I had issues with that. There's also too much repetition in this screenplay, right? Now, after I say all of this, I still think it's actually good. I think it's worth a look. There are some very thrilling moments. There's a scene in here where I was just like, one, why is this in the picture? Why is this happening? But it is a good, like, tense horror scene, right? I'm gonna throw out the ladder between the building scene in Scream 6. Like, it's kind of like that, right? But then I'm like, you know what? We don't need that. So even though it's really, really flawed. Oh, and thank God the little girl is not annoying. Like, I thought she was really, really good.
She was really good.
Yeah. Production design is great. You know, you're right. Some of it is really, really dark, but none of us really, I don't know. I don't know about you. I didn't come out of Nosferatu or like The Witch and being like, what's up with this darkness? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't mind it, but the problem is if you end up in a theater like I have sometimes, the screen is not so bright. I don't know if it's a projector thing or something. And so I can imagine, just like the Game of Thrones episode, it looks way too dark, but I think it worked. So it's a watch for me, but it is super flawed. It's nothing like The Invisible Man. I'm almost afraid that this will be a success, but not the crash success that Invisible Man was. So, yeah. By the way, is it a watch or a skip for you?
It's a watch. It's definitely not. It's his weakest of his films he's directed, in my opinion. But I still really like it. Invisible Man, the way it tackled the Me Too movement, and of course, I mean, Moss was just so good. And I mean,
oh God, and a New Zealander. She's a New Zealander. New Zealand is like my dream home. I love that. But I guess I should mention one other thing, which is, you know, we've said this on the show before. I think nothing kills a movie for a viewer more like expectations. And with something like this, something that's universally known, like The Monsters, one of my issues with the Invisible Man was, when is the character going to catch up to the fact there's a fucking Invisible Man? Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so with stuff like this, or let's think about like Bates Motel, right? You're watching a prequel, or Hannibal, you're watching a prequel, you know, because you know of the pop culture zeitgeist and everything, where the end point is supposed to be. And so it becomes like this waiting game. I felt a little bit of that here. I was like, okay, come on, change already, right? So I think some viewers might get let down with that kind of expectation because it's a very deliberate pacing.
Yep.
Oh, the creature design. There was a lot of hay made over the fact that they debuted the look at the Universal Halloween night, right? What did you think of the visual effects? Because there's very much The Fly, like you said in here. There's there's actually a big nod to Saw, which I had to laugh
Oh
at.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. We're gonna.
I was like, hello? We're referencing ourselves. And then there was some major nods to American Werewolf in London. I mean,
Oh yeah.
down to his jacket and the whole like, we don't hang out in the forest at night or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, don't cross the moors, right? But what did you think about the creature design? I was a little disappointed by it.
It was an interesting idea and concept to go more like mutated human being look instead of like an actual wolfman, like someone turning into a wolf. So it looked less like someone turning into a wolf and someone just mutating, like having some kind of a virus that mutates your look. And it brings up a lot of memories of The Fly and that the transformation scene in American Werewolf in London. Of course, there's even moments where they zoom in and you see like the cheekbones go.
Yeah, like the bladder.
And then the
Baker. Yeah.
the bladder effect, the elongating of the bottom chin, which I have that always anyway, so I'd be a perfect wolf
Oh,
man.
stop.
So it's like one of those things where it's like it all added to a cool look, but overall it wasn't what I was hoping for. It was much better than the look at the we got at the amusement park.
Universal thing. Yeah.
The Universal amusement park thing was, and he, I guess Whannell even said he was upset that they did that, and it was like based off of an original early concept drawing that they ended up not even doing.
Yeah.
So if you saw that and then you see the final, it's way different. There's not the white hair. It's not all wispy, weird looking. Again, it looks much more like just a mutated human with a big jaw and teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was half expecting her to hug his freaky ass, and it didn't happen. But anyway, Whannell said, it's like judging the Freddy Krueger makeup in the film from the Spirit Halloween costume.
Exactly.
Of Freddy Krueger. It was like, yeah, that's spot on. All right. So there's going to be a future format change. I'm thinking of some kind of interstitial. You and I are going to put our brains together.
Yeah.
Between the spoiler free and the spoiler. But for now, if you haven't seen Wolfman, you might want to turn us off. Although we hope you won't, because we got pluses at the end. But if you haven't seen it, we're definitely going to spoil the crap out of it in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Let's talk about, first of all, the repetition that I did not like.
Okay.
There is a lot of repeating imagery of like father and son, flip it, mother and daughter, right? And then the wolf vision. How many times do we have to see the goddamn wolf vision? I'm like, you're really not selling me on this, and you're doing it too much, right? And then just the repetition of, here's the bad dad. Am I a bad dad? You're a bad mom. We're cold together. Or am I a bad mom? Am I a good parent? And it just, I think that they were going too much for the tragedy of the lovers in The Fly.
Yes.
That they simply just repeated the theme so much. It's not like a hammer on the head thing, because I've talked to other people who saw this and they didn't have the same concerns. But for me, it was just like, Lord, give it up, right? But I hate to say this. I called it, but when they mentioned that his father died and he inherits the ranch, I was like, oh, he didn't die. He turns to the Wolfman, and he's
the Wolfman. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, God damn it. Right. I don't know. So that kind of took me out of it, because I was absolutely expecting it. And then sure enough, you know, that Wolfman attacks his family, he kills him, and then you see the tattoo.
Yep.
Right. But again, to me, I felt like they were mixing too many of the metaphors, right? Like that whole I don't want to become the monster that my father was, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it was like I don't think they beefed up the is he going to kill his family or is he going to protect his family? Because I think that's one of the big themes that they were totally playing with. Like
Yep.
Scooter was like, why is he just standing there in the dark spying on them? Is he going to like bite their heads off or what? Like, come on, let's do this, right? So I think they could have played that up more rather than this like father son, trauma stuff. What did you think about that?
I liked, and I wish they would have dove more into the obsessions that come from trauma. Like
Yeah,
that's basically we find out that I mean we kind of link it together that the father became obsessed about this Wolfman, and
right.
from that first traumatic scene of him having to basically save his son from a Wolfman attack, and that put him down a downward spiral that we've kind of put together. But I wish we should have got more with the father. We needed more with the original father. We needed to know him more. We needed to understand more. It's
Yeah,
almost like they wanted to like link this up for some kind of a prequel or sequel because of course the original wolf that turned the father, we don't know if he was killed. He might still be
right.
out there. So there's a lot of stuff out there that they were playing with, and there's just so many themes that he's so close to getting. Like that concept of something traumatic creates an obsession. Through
Yeah,
through through trauma, we have to either become obsessed with it or obsessed with getting away from it. So in this, you have the son whose obsession got him as far away from his father, away from that thought concept, and he hadn't been home for years. He didn't want to go back to that trauma. Whereas dad 100% dove into the obsession and tried to find and tried to fight and kill that beast. And that became all he could think about because of that trauma. A man who was very militant, who in one moment lost control and almost, almost died with his son. And that was the moment that made him snap. I wish we would have got more there. I liked the vision actually stuff because we were able to see him losing his humanity, and it kind of made me emotional, like the way he was trying to reach out and couldn't speak and couldn't communicate, and you could see. And then by the end vision, the family looks less and less human and more animal, and you could tell he's about ready to snap on them because he's losing
that's
his humanity.
that's a good point. I just feel like it was too much. Like, save that, dude. Save it. Keep
Yeah,
it sparse. Like, I
it
think we
looked
got it
so
four
wild.
times.
Yeah,
We got it
four
like
times. But each time shows, if you look at it, especially when I saw the way that the family looked in that last vision before he
yeah,
started to
like
lose
the
it,
eyes were bright and you could see the
the,
veins.
the veins, and then they became less human and more like an animal, like a cat-like creature that, again,
Yeah,
being a wolf, you're going to start to want to attack.
that's a
Being a
good
prey
point.
creature. So it showed him losing humanity and his family going from something he loved to something he was going to prey after. So I liked that concept, and I did really enjoy the trauma stuff. And I mean, I got emotional at the end. I kind of cried. I'm not even gonna lie. And I took my teenage boys who really wanted to see it. And my 13-year-old, he loved this movie. Like he was totally into it. Even my 15-year-old, I thought they were gonna be bored stiff, but they were
Oh,
so into it. The only beef
nice.
they had is, and we kind of had an argument about this, is why did she let him in when she saw that he was changing? She saw that he was fighting. Why did she let her husband, who is obviously some mutant wolfman, into the home at that point? And I
Well,
said,
because
you don't
she too wasn't sure,
exactly, and
you
it's
know?
love.
Yeah,
She had love for him, and she saw him standing up for their family. And I was
yeah,
telling my boys, I was like, she loves him, and she saw him standing up for her daughter, even when he was changing, even though she let him back in at the end after we see him fight and see him losing more and more. I was like, what would you do in that situation? If mom was changing, I would let her in. And they're like,
yeah.
heck no, dog. I wouldn't let that happen. No, no.
It's
But
different when you have that connection. It's
exactly.
and you say, I don't when they were touching their foreheads or whatever, I'm like, stop, stop. That happened four times also, right? And it's just like,
Everything
um,
was repeated in force. And can we talk? We might as well just get into the saw little fun with the
oh yeah, yeah,
trap. And then,
yeah,
I mean, talk about that nasty part in Substance where we get all the sound effects of eating. But eating, the first scene with eating the hand, the arm, just like going to
yeah,
town.
yeah.
My son almost kicked me in the face. He just like instantly, his whole body inverted, and he was like, "Wow!"
So
it was one of those scenes.
So to set it up for our listeners, if they are listening to the spoilers without going, he starts to change, and he has been scratched by the wolf on his arm, and Julia Garner takes away the thing, and the wound is all like pussy and gross, and he starts eating it buffet style off of his arm. That was excruciating to watch. I was like, ew, ew. And then later in the film, and apparently I think this is really what animals do. He gets trapped in a bear. His foot gets caught in a bear trap. And so just like Saw, he chews his foot off. Oh my God. So we get another, delicatessen like scene. And then I'm like, well, now what's he going to do? Crawl around? Sure enough, he's going to crawl around without his foot or whatever. But like, yeah, that was insane. Going back to the monster vision, the wolf vision, I just got shades of like when Nastasia Kinski in Cat People has her cat vision and she kills the rabbit, or Brad Pitt turning into a vampire and interviewed with the vampire, right? I'm like, it struck me as like, it's been done before, it's been done well, but when they overused it, I was like, wow. I see what you're saying about that. Like, obviously, yeah, but about the fact that it is progressive in some ways, a la The Fly.
Yeah.
So then the dad, who does kind of look like the Universal Monsters kind of thing, does end up showing up. And I did like the scene that was given away in the trailer of the truck attack and stuff like that. That was pretty fun. I got shades of Wolf. So if any of our listeners have not checked out Jack Nicholson's Wolf, it is it's not his movie. I think Mike Nichols directed it, and Wesley Strick wrote it, who I love. I love Wesley Strick. But that is like a modern Wolfman. And I just, spoiler alert, I love the fact that, Spader becomes a werewolf and then they fight over Michelle Pfeiffer at the end. It's one of my
I love that.
movies ever. It's so great. But going back to the beginning, you had talked about the fact that, we don't get a lot of the dad. We also don't get a lot of what's going on with the relationship between Julia Garner and Chris Abbott.
Yeah.
We just know that there's some weird separation, like she's throwing herself into work. She doesn't care enough to censor herself and curse her editor out in front of her daughter or whatever. And they seem to be close to separating, right?
Yeah, I kind of felt that though. I mean, going into my own personal story, there was a moment in time where I was without work. We find out the character in this was a writer who hasn't been working and had focused for about a year or so on being a dad. Yeah. And the wife became the breadwinner, making the most of the money, and felt less like a mom while the dad was really involved. And I kind of felt that way. And there became a point in my own personal relationship where I became Mr. Mom, and it did affect our marriage. It's hard to balance and change that concept from both of you working together, and they were both writers, so you could tell there was maybe some jealousy, a journalist and a writer. She's still working, he's not. She's jealous that the daughter is way more connected to him than to her, and these are all things that happened in my own real life. So this, to me, it hit as a dad and as someone who had this similar situation happen where I took a year off to become Mr. Mom. I felt what he was going through, and I also understood. So again, I get it, but if you aren't in that situation, they don't give you very much to kind of paint what's going on.
Well, they don't. And like when she ends up going to Oregon and meeting the other hunter, she's like super standoffish. She's like, I'm a writer, and then she's all like, what makes you think I'm not tough or whatever. But then when things go down and the wolf is out, we don't see scenes of Garner like hugging her kid or even talking to her kid. When Abbott is going downstairs, she's just sitting with the kid like she's babysitting. It almost made me think it wasn't their daughter. Like maybe it was his daughter from another relationship. I don't know. Needless to say, her character was just so cold to me that when she becomes the mama bear protector, I didn't buy it. I just didn't.
Yeah. Well, now she She had to
she's
learn.
stuck
She has
with
to
the
learn.
daughter.
Yeah, she has to learn to become a parent again because she pulled back. It's almost like that 1950s concept of what were the dads like. You know, they weren't involved. They while they were a parent, they didn't know how to communicate with their kids. They didn't know how to be there. She didn't know how to because she hadn't been there for her daughter, and he did. And as he was transforming, I think there was a moment where she realized, oh wow, it was that moment when he ate his arm. She realized there was not much humanity, and then she had to protect her daughter, maybe from the man who protected her from everything else. So
Yeah.
there's interesting concepts and there's a lot of cool themes, but they don't all land. Some of them,
Yeah.
it's like there's too much sometimes. And he wants you to kind of infer almost too much on what's going on. But again, even if you're like my teenagers who just like went in, they liked Smile. They kind of like this whole like trauma horror stuff, elevated horror. So they knew kind of what they were getting and they really did like it. They liked them even more than I did. They were totally into it. And to quote them, they said that movie was gas, Dad. So they
Oh,
loved it.
nice. Oh, I love that. I'm going to use that from now on. That movie was gas. Um, I should also mention, I think it's a little too on the nose that, Abbott's character is wearing a military jacket. I was like, come on, we already know he has a tragic relationship with his father. Like, don't put him in a military jacket, please. But obviously, in the beginning, they're in the high hide. I was like, okay, with all this repetition, they're gonna end in the high hide. And sure enough, they end in the high hide, and she ends up shooting him. And then the sort of book-ended last image is her and the daughter staring at the mountainscape, just the way that the father and the son, or Christopher Abbott's character, were staring at the landscape in the beginning, right?
Yep.
Now, maybe this is just me, but are we supposed to infer that Julia Garner's going to be a bad parent then? Because if they're both standing in the same place, admiring the same beauty, is it gonna be circular? Is this gonna happen again?
It's a cycle. We're showing a cycle. How is she going to live from this? We're back. So what choice? Is she going to be so obsessed about finding maybe there's a Wolfman left out there? You could tell there was a fear. Maybe there's still something out there. How do I get my kid home from here in that moment? But at the same time, how is she going to respond to trauma? And how is the daughter going to respond to the trauma of seeing her father killed by her mother, which she knew needed to happen? And even when she said he wants to be set free or be released or whatever, that was when I started to get all emotional. It's like, yeah, she realized it. And then he wanted her to, and when he pushes through, you knew what he did was to try to scare her, to get her to finish him off. And I thought that was really emotional. I thought that was really well done. And yeah,
actually, now that I think about it, that's very much like The Fly, when
exactly
he takes the thing and he puts the shotgun. Oh, Leigh Whanell.
Well, let's go
from The Fly.
In pre-production, Leigh Whanell said that he was hosting film screenings before they were started, and the films that they were watched were The Thing, The Fly, The Shining, Little Children, Blue Valentine, Amour,
Little Children,
and Under the Skin. So when you see all these films, you get what he was going for.
Yeah,
Little Children, again, is weird, but it's about how we deal with trauma. So
totally,
really
I love that movie.
So
why didn't we get a wolf dick? We got vampire dick. Why didn't we get wolf dick? Anyway, I Christopher Abbott is so great in this. I loved it. But you're right. I think they didn't connect some of their themes.
Yeah.
Although now that I think about this, that is why the father doesn't shoot the Wolfman, because then after that scene we find out he's obsessed with sort of finding him and making sure it's him. But that causes the trauma because the kid was probably like, why didn't you shoot this monster that was coming for us?
Yeah.
I didn't think about that until now. Anyway.
Yeah, there's interesting stuff. And overall, I applaud it for being a straight up tragedy. It's great to have tragic horror. I mean, I think so many times horror films want to shock and awe instead of just really be tragic. Like, I felt emotional for this family at the end, and I felt for the dad. Like, even though that was kind of corny, the effect of the werewolf visions, it showed that he was losing his humanity and how hard it was for him. And the little bits when you actually saw his face trying to speak to her and wanting her to know that, I love you, the whole like head thing that they were doing, that I love
Yeah.
you bit. And it did get to me as a father and as someone who's dealt with trauma of losing parents and having a very militant grandfather who raised me after losing parents. There were so many things that hit hard for me. And I just wish there would have been a little bit more, again, with the father, a little bit more with Garner. And there's so much inferred. And honestly, it's not that long. Like I looked at my watch of course, it was supposed to start at 8. By the time the commercials were over and it went to black to start, it was 8:21. By the time it was over, it was 8:52. The movie's only an hour and 31 minutes before credits roll. So it's really not that long.
Why did
Yeah.
I feel like it was? Why did I feel like it was longer?
It's 140 minutes or an hour and 40 minutes, but there's like 9 minutes worth of credits at the end. I didn't stay to see if there was.
I sat through them. They were a long screed.
Yeah. But it really wasn't that long. I felt like overall what we got picture to picture, an hour and 30 minutes. But again, that first 40 minutes really had some pacing issues. And it wasn't the story's problem. It really came down to Leigh Whanell's direction. There was just too much languidity. There was too much, it just felt so melodrama, Kramer versus Kramer, where he just needed to hone it in. And it was interesting how they chose to change the lighting when almost like each act had different changes in lighting and it got darker and darker.
Yeah.
So there was things that, what do we call him? Douchey, or whatever his name is, where I could tell he was Duccio, where I could tell he was, I mean, of course, you've read that he said he was a student of Deakins, and especially with Sicario and some of the other stuff he did. But you could tell he was trying.
If you say Deakins.
You could tell he was trying to show emotion through the way he lit things. And as it got darker, that's when things got bleaker and bleaker, especially for whomever was the leads and our leads. Things got very bleak those last 20 to 30 minutes. And so I was able to wrap my head around it. As soon as I got home last night, I saw like 8 o'clock, got home, and I spent about 30 minutes putting my notes together and just kind of doing some reading. And a lot of people were bothered by how dark it was. I did it first. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized what he was doing and why he went dark like that, to show
His world is ending. It's getting
their world was coming to an end.
About to become an animal. One last thing. Did we need the greenhouse sequence? Did we need the greenhouse sequence? We did not. Also, there's a house right there. Why would you just crawl right up onto the goddamn greenhouse? Anyway, I mean, it's an effective sequence, right? With the jumping. But then I'm like, wait a minute. Wait. Speaking of Jurassic Park and the velociraptors jumping, right? It's jumping up and it's scratching the stuff. And then the kid falls through and then it pauses to jump up and grab the kid. Like, come on. Like, I don't understand why there's these rules and then they break the rules for tension, So,
yeah, it's to throw some jump scares in there, because for the most part the film's a tonal horror film with more like building up of dread than it is of actual, I was kind of impressed that it wasn't a whole bunch of jump scare after jump scare. We got like 2 or 3 pretty effective moments, that being one, the other one being the hand coming through the doggy door. So there were some moments that were effective, and that, I mean, it was effective for my teens. Again, I love going to horror movies with my kids, my older kids, to see how they react. And yeah, that was one of those legs flipped in the air and they were
oh my God, the doggy door. Did you see a dog in the beginning?
No, I don't know. It's almost like they wrote it in just for that scene. I have no idea.
Cutting room floor, baby.
Why would you have a dog door when you live out in the middle of nowhere where there's just nothing but wild animals? And
that's when you need the dog, because then
that's true.
That's when the dog is like, "Yo, there's something coming. Get out." But yeah, Leigh Whanell, where's the fucking dog?
Left on the cutting room floor, maybe.
I guess. All right, it's still a watch for me. And I think a second viewing might deepen it for me. I just thought that it was too much repetition in themes. Themes didn't land, and it was too sparse in terms of the writing. But it's still an effective horror movie. How about you?
It is. I'd give it a soft watch. I enjoyed it. I think that if you go in with your expectations, that this is not like The Mummy. This is not like one of those big explosion blow up type of films. That it's a very much internal film about trauma. It does take its time, but if you've dealt with trauma in your life, if these are themes that you enjoy exploring, and even if you don't love horror and you want to explore these themes of the cycles of trauma and how we react to trauma as we grow older, I think it's worth a watch. If you can handle body horror stuff, there is some really cool and gruesome body horror images that, next to Substance, is some of the nastiest big budget stuff I've seen in a while. So kudos to Leigh Whanell for again elevating the Universal monster to be, instead of the Me Too movement that Invisible Man was going for, looking at the cycles of trauma and how we can control and not control things sometimes. So really cool
Love it. I love that
ideas.
assessment. It's great. All right. Here we go with our pluses. Mike, do you have a plus?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just go back into consumerism. So for about 3.5 years, almost 4 years, I had the same cell phone. This cell phone, it was a One Plus, is what it was called. Again, I'm not an Apple.
One Plus. I
I
had
had
it forever.
I had a OnePlus 9 for 3.5 years, almost 4 years. My wife finally got me a new phone, so I'm going to plus my new phone. I'm not an Apple guy. I have two phones. I'm a sales guy by trade, so I have a work phone that's an Apple phone, and I hate it. I just despise
Really?
iOS. I do not like it. I don't like that it's easy to use. I don't think it's intuitive enough or
I don't think
user.
it's intuitive enough either. I hate Apple.
I don't like it. And so my wife surprised me. We ended up getting new phones. I got a Samsung Galaxy 24 Plus, and I'm kind of loving it after for I don't know 3.5 years of my OnePlus just slowly getting degraded, and then became a portal for people from China to hack into my phone. I was so ready for a new phone, and I've joined the AI revolution. Like, just I've only had it going for about a couple weeks now, but really it's interesting how their generative AI works and how it's sometimes it's kind of flawed. Like, I texted you something that I didn't mean to text, and it texted.
That was so weird.
And you were like, "What do you
Like,
think?" And I was like, "I didn't mean to say that. That's
You were like, be ready. And I'm like, are you smoking hash before the show?
But at the same time, it's really cool. Like, I'm really enjoying it. I had a Samsung Galaxy phone back when they started the Edges, probably a decade ago, and it was so full of bloatware. It came with, and then I had the first Galaxy phone that came with Avatar, which took up 90% of your phone memory. It was cool to have Avatar on your phone, but at the same time, you couldn't delete it, and it was stuck on your phone, and it just sucked up all your. So I was worried about that, but I am so happy with this Samsung Galaxy 24. It's really intuitive. It was so easy to transfer my data. If you're an old guy like me, you do not like getting new electronics because you're so worried about
I know.
losing. You're worried about losing stuff. You're losing your passwords, losing your contacts. So it took me 3.5 years of going through a cracked phone, taped together though, to finally
Oh my God.
give in and be like, I gotta get it. I gotta change a new phone. So when I got this new phone, it's been so awesome. So again, if you're on the fence looking for a new phone, there's so many different options out there. I really do recommend the Galaxy 24. It's the same size as what my OnePlus was, my OnePlus 9, exact same size, a little bit thicker, more meaty, but yeah, great phone if you're looking for an Android. Again, make fun of me all you want. I don't care. I'm not an Apple guy. I do not like their iOS at all. I think that it's made for people who don't know how to do anything with a computer. So it doesn't allow you to do things. You can't. It was so hard for me to type on it or to change the brightness.
Oh
Like,
God, I hate it. I don't know where
everything
anything
about it.
is. I have an iPhone work phone. I don't know where anything is. I taught myself to use the basic shit, and that's all I do.
Same. I don't
Yeah.
like it. Man, we are
Yeah.
more spirit animals than we know, Jose.
I know.
I was going to say, when you asked me, I'm like, do you realize how alike we're going to be because of how similar we are once we
Totally.
get going? I mean, we're going to eventually get to the point where I think we do veer on some films, but we are very similar in the things we like. We like junk movies. I love Madam Web. We
Yeah.
like a lot of the same stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what we do here. But anyway,
And
what's
hey,
your plus?
I've got a Pixel 7 Pro.
Oh, I
So
almost got one of
Yeah.
those. You like it?
I do. I mean, it's Google, right? So I'm probably being spied on, but I don't care. All right. So my plus, there's actually two of them. I have not seen The Last Showgirl yet. I have
Me
not seen
neither.
it, but Pam Anderson is one of my heroes back then. Pam Anderson Lee. For whatever reasons, I got stuck on like Jenny McCarthy. She was like my party blonde, but what I really should have been, I should have really been following Pam, and I sort of like caught up. But I have her biography. I'm a huge fan. I love her. I just absolutely love her. And I revisited Barbed Wire on Blu-ray, and oh my God, I was reciting lines. I have not seen this movie in over, I don't know, 15 years maybe. But like I put it in, I'm reciting her lines, I'm reciting other characters' lines. I just love it, and I would encourage people to watch it. Look, it's no great shakes. It is absolutely the movie that came on Cinemax at like 11 o'clock that I just adored. It reminds me of things like Albert Pune's Nemesis, but obviously a little more tongue-in-cheek. David Hogan, who directed it, was like a second unit action director for Batman Forever and Alien 3. And he really crafts a great movie. And I don't remember who the DP was, but basically it's a sci-fi ripoff of Casablanca, if you can believe that, right? I don't know why people don't talk about that. They just talk about like Pam's breasts, which are cartoonishly out of control in this film. They're beautiful, but they're cartoonishly out of control in this film. But I would just encourage everybody to watch. I fucking love Fire. I watched it for the first time like maybe a few days ago. I've already seen it like twice since then. I love that movie so much. Xander Berkeley is in it. Jack Noseworthy, who I know the Not a Bomb people hate. But I love Jack Noseworthy. It turns out he actually came out of the closet and has like a husband. And I was like, damn it, why didn't I know this earlier? I could have flown to California to stalk him. Who else is in this? Tamora Morrison before he became big. Steve Railsback in a complete like Jack Nicholson Joker role. He is fantastic chewing the scenery in this film. And the action scenes are damn good. They're really damn good. Her stunt double is Dana He, who is an Olympic gold medalist Taekwondo champion. Google her, Dana He, Heee. She's doubled people like Penelope Ann Miller in The Shadow, Nicole Kidman in Batman Forever. Who else did she double? Sandra Bullock. Yeah, she's great. I love Dana He. But that's one part of my plus. The other plus is you can see I'm wearing them, but this is this is called the Bose open ear buds. And so basically they look kind of like an earring, but you basically just hook them into your ear like this, and then they just kind of like hang on like that. Wow. So it's not in your ear holes. So everything is open. It's the ultra open earbud by Bose or Bose. I don't know. Bose. I say Bose because it's Bose. Right. Now I will say this. It does have multi-point. It is incredible in terms of sound. They have something called motion sound. And so if you're listening to music and you turn your head, it actually gives you this full sensory array as you're moving. Yeah, it's fantastic. And then there's another like standing still spatial thing where if you go like this, it won't change it either. My problem is I have a lot of issues with the multi-point. I was trying to hook this up to my personal computer, and it said it was connected, but it wasn't connected. It also refuses to connect to my work laptop, and I don't know why. It won't register no matter what I do. Put it in, do this, use the app, do all that stuff. It just won't. And so that's a big dig on this, but I absolutely love this. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic. And the little case that they give you will actually it will actually charge it as well. And so even if it's like, sometimes I'll wear just the left, even if it says like, 50% here, 100% here, you put it back in this, the next time you take it out, they're both 100%.
Nice.
So yeah.
What's the charge time like on those? How long do they last?
So this, I had to charge it for the first time after using this for a while. I think it was like two weeks of in and out and in and out. I think it just depends on how often you use this or whatever. So the charge, it's amazing. The charge time, all of that, it's great. Now I will say when you plug it in, it's got to be like 10 hours to get everything, but just plug it in overnight and,
Yeah.
whatever. So, yeah, those are my pluses. $249.
Yeah.
But I had to. I'm obsessed with these open ear things.
While you're talking about that, I will talk about my love for a barbed wire. I actually, in college, had the poster right next to the left side of where I slept. I used to look and give her a little kiss, and I had Carmen Electra right next to her. That was such a big part of my late teen years, was my love for those two, Carmen and Pam.
Okay, now you're
Thanks to
saying
Baywatch.
now you're saying teen, and I'm like, oh my God. But you were right. You are right. We are spirit animals, because my poster was Basic Instinct, and I would kiss Sharon Stone. and then actually the other poster above my bed was The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. So I would kiss Sharon and Helen and then go to bed.
Yes.
Oh, anywho, all right. Okay, so Mike, welcome aboard to Watch Skip Plus. Thank you. I'm happy to have you here. This is going to be a fun year.
It's going to be fun.
Or fun run. How about that? Yeah, there you go. Anything else you want to let the viewers know before I go into our outro?
Nope. Just once again, my big thing is, like you, keep going to the movies. Take your family and take your kids to the movies. Let them understand and feel the power of seeing a movie in the theater. My kids have friends that have never been to the movie theaters, and it makes me really sad. I try my best to grab them and get them to the movies, whether it's seeing the Sonic movie or whatever. I think that we live in a day where parents aren't taking their kids to the movies. It's becoming a dying art with some of this younger generation. So it's really important that we as parents, we take our kids to the movies. So continue to support public viewing and exhibition. Get out there, take your kids to the movies. I'm going to be so full of film and love of film as I get ready for the Sundance Film Festival to start. I just love film. I'm glad to be here to talk about it. And again, take your kids to the movies and try to see film in the theaters as much as you can.
Absolutely. That immersive sound and audio, that's what the filmmakers want you to experience. And so, yes, welcome aboard. This is going to be great. I think just based on availability, I think we're going to tackle The Brutalist.
Yep.
I think it's brutal because it's 3 hours and 45 minutes.
We'll see.
But we'll see. If you love us, you'll certainly love our Podfathers. Actually, Mike had mentioned this. We met on the GGTMC Facebook page and did like the Kringle, the Secret Santa sort of thing, which is fantastic, guys. If you think about this, we're all spread all over the world, and we would do this Kringle thing and send our Christmas gifts out, and then just like the returns and hearing people comment about their stuff and posting what they got. It's such brotherhood and family. It's wonderful.
It is.
But you would love The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema. Also, Not a Bomb with Troy and Brad. They just recently did Reign of Fire, which I love that as a dragon movie. And then before that, they did Tiptoes. Oh my God. Yes, we won't say anything more about Tiptoes. Just Google it. Matthew McConaughey stars in it, and then watch it and have your mind blown. You also love the OG's Night of the Living podcast, Wild Dream podcast, Death by DVD, Raiders of the podcast. We're going to have Kevin on, I'm telling you. Yep. Backlook Cinema podcast with Zoe. And then these are a back catalog of podcasts, but I don't think they're putting out new episodes. VHS Files, Silva and Gold, Cult of Muscle, Feminine Critique, Married with Clickers, and Friends with Cinephits, which is Alex's podcast. But yeah, I'm Jose. He's Mike. And support exhibition and just be kind, be open, be vulnerable.
Yes.
See you guys next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Ding.